the fuck is Tony Blakk?
Yeah, who the fuck is that?
Welcome back, minions, to another episode of Misery Point Radio. Thanks for sacrificing your ear sphincters once again and setting aside the last remnants of good judgment to tune in and check out another epic conversation with yet another metal heavy hitter. Now, I know what you're thinking. Which North Carolina band are we going to be talking about today, Mike? Well, smartasses, the answer is none, because today, Misery Point Radio is featuring an artist from the far-off land of Orlando, Florida. Way far away from North Carolina, super far, not even close. That's right. And because the stars were all aligned and incantations spoken and ancient symbols scrawled and all that cosmic mumbo-jumbo, I was able to conjure a conversation with the Lord of all Druids himself, Tony Blakk. And what's even more badass is that even though Tony and his band Druid Lord are based out of Florida, he actually took the time to call me from England while on vacation with his family. Super badass. We talked about so many cool things, what he's been doing in England, what he did in France, his visits to numerous castles and historical places, and of course, what we all want to know, whose food is better. We also chatted about his time in Acheron, the origin of Druid Lord, and the fascination with old school horror flicks. And on top of that, we dove into his newest project, the Tony Blakk Show, and his plans for YouTube domination. There were so many cool things covered in this episode, I frankly can't mention them all in this intro. But that's why you're here. You gotta listen to the whole thing. I'm not gonna do all the work for you. We don't do cliff notes here. So, light some candles, step into the circle, break out the chains, and get ready for an epic dose of heavy, doomy, sludgy brutality. If you think you can handle it. I think you can. Here we go. So please welcome to Misery Point Radio from Druid Lord, Mr. Tony Blakk. Tony, thanks for joining me today, brother. Definitely appreciate it.
No problem, man. Good to be here.
Yeah. So you're in England right now, correct?
Yes, sir. I'm somewhere near London by the beach. It's called Sandgate.
Sandgate?
So, yeah.
Awesome. And how long have you been on vacation for? Where are you traveling to?
Okay, so we did a week here, and then we did a week in France. And we got to see the Eiffel Tower and stuff and the Notre Dame. And now we're doing 2 more weeks in England. So we're doing a full month in England. So
holy crap.
Yeah.
I've never had a vacation that long. So
me neither.
Yeah, right. What's the occasion? Just kind of taking a break from the day-to-day and getting the family out of town for a while, or?
It's a little more solemn than that. My wife has cancer.
Oh shit!
And this is like her. This was on her bucket list, and she's got a really good friend that lives here in England, and they were supposed to get married, and we originally planned on coming up here for a wedding, but they had to postpone the wedding, and we were like, hey, you know what? We already got the tickets and stuff, and why don't we just? Is it cool if we come anyway? And they're like, yeah. So they put us up in their house, and this is like it's almost like a Make-A-Wish Foundation for my wife,
Oh, crazy. Yeah. So you guys are hanging out overseas there for the next month or so then. That's and they're putting you up. So that's pretty cool that you get to hang out with friends rather than just kind of stay in hotels or hostels or whatever else is out that way.
Dude, we are living it up over here. We got a house I look out and the beach is right there. I mean, I walk across the street, the beach is right there. It's a 3-story house. It was built in 1822.
So it's got some history behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's badass, and we're gonna go see some castles tomorrow. I'm just having the time of my life right now, man.
Yeah, I saw some of your posts that you had probably seen some really cool old buildings and some castles. So what have you done so far? What have you seen?
So like I said, we saw the Eiffel Tower, the Cathedral of Notre Dame. We saw the property where Monet lived, and we walked the grounds where he painted some of his famous paintings, and we walked his house. and the Monet house that was, and his paintings are just all over the walls.
Crazy.
Yeah, we saw the Sandgate Castle. We saw a bunch of old churches in France. We stayed at a chateau in France that was built in the 1300s.
Oh, that's fucking sick.
It was amazing, man. I mean, one of the buildings, the monks were in there, and she showed me where they used to pray, where the monks would pray. And like, we saw some parts of the chateau that was like, where war had like the war, they had like had a war there, and like this part was blown up by cannons and shit, and this part caught fire and they had to rebuild it, and it was amazing, dude. I loved it, man. Yeah,
the whole history of all that kind of old school stuff I've definitely been a fan of for a long time. It sounds like that's something you're into as well.
Yeah, man, I got a history lesson coming here because, like, my buddy's English, and so he's telling me that right where his house is, there was battles between the French and the English, because I can see France almost from this house. Like, you look over, and on a clear day, you can see part of France. So it was a 30-minute ride to get on a ferry to go over to France. So it's like right there. And he's telling me about all these wars and stuff that was fought right here. It's like crazy, man.
What's the favorite thing you've done so far on your travel abroad there?
We saw an old castle. I don't even know what it's called in France. That it was parts of it were wrecked, and there was nobody there. There was nobody telling us, "Oh, you can't go in there. You can't go over here." It was just like abandoned. And me and my kids are just walking and exploring it, and we're just like, this is cool as shit. Like in Florida, there would be a fence. There would be a fence there. There would be a guard there telling you can't go in there, and there was nobody there. It was just amazing. Like, we could have fallen off the cliff and died, but like they actually make you accountable there. It's not like all dumbed down.
They don't fucking hold your hand, live with your own consequences over that way. That's killer.
Yeah, like they're like, hey, fucking go to this castle at your own risk, which is cool.
What's how's the food over there? Which do you prefer, the French or the English food?
The French food was amazing, actually, man. I had this salmon tart the first day that was amazing. It had like croissant with the cheese and salmon, and then it was I definitely prefer the France food. French food was amazing. Although we had a place here that did fish and chips that was amazing too. So I really haven't had as much English food yet as the French food. So
awesome. Well,
I don't know.
My day job is that I am an executive chef, and so I've always wanted to ask people who are over there, hey, what's your favorite between the two? Because there's always that interesting battle of the foods kind of overseas. So that's pretty cool to hear you say that.
Yeah, they really go the extra mile over there, man, because I think they're known for the food. So it seems like they go the extra mile, and everything is kind of decadent, and
right,
the food, and it's, they really do it up, man.
Killer. So, I could spend all day asking you about your trip over there, but I guess let's dig into you. So, thank you for indulging me, though. I was definitely very curious. So, let's talk about the mighty Druid Lord. By the way, have you noticed that every time the name Druid Lord gets mentioned, it's the mighty Druid Lord, because you guys are fucking mighty, apparently. When I was looking online and doing a little bit of homework and whatnot, I kept finding that word thrown in there, and I thought it was funny. Apt, but funny. So,
good, man. I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking kind of into your history, if you don't mind me getting a little bit of a history lesson there. So it looks like the formation of where you guys are at now kind of started back in the Acheron days, kind of where you hooked up with Pete, and you guys did that for a while. Yeah. Completely a different concept back then than what you're doing now. This is back like what, in the early 90s, I want to say, and you were playing guitar at that time, right?
Yeah, I was just a guitarist, no vocals. I did some backup vocals. Me and Vince live, we would do the kind of deicide where he would go high and I would go low.
Yeah,
We
that
would
and the
do like
carcassy kind of
harmonies.
thing. Yeah.
And yeah, we used to do that, and but I wasn't a lead singer, back then. But right after Acheron, I joined this band called Apostasy, and I did lead vocals for those guys because all they needed was a vocalist,
Right.
and that kind of put that, in my head, man. I could probably do that someday if I wanted to,
Yeah. And when you were playing in Acheron, I mean, did you hadn't thought at that point there that, this might be a direction I want to take this vocally? It wasn't until you got involved in the next thing you said, fuck, I might do this.
Nah, man. When I was in Acheron, I was happy doing backup vocals, and I wanted to work on my leads more because I didn't do a lot of leads in Acheron. And but after working on them for a while, I realized I'm not a lead guitarist, So so I was like, but the lead vocals never really crossed my mind back then, man. I was happy playing guitar.
Yeah.
It's fun.
And at that time when you guys were in that, was Mike Browning jamming with you in that time too, or did he kind of come later?
Nah, man, he was there. So I joined Acheron in 92. It may have been late 91. No, it was 92. And so I joined. Vince was living in Lake County, somewhere like Mount Dora or something like that. And he didn't have a steady drummer, and he only had the one guitarist, which was Pete. And I saw them at a club in Orlando. And me and my roommate, he was a drummer. We loved the band, and our band wasn't doing much. So they were like, "Hey, we're looking for a drummer and another guitarist." And I was like, "Holy shit, that's what we are," So we joined up, and unfortunately, my roommate didn't take it seriously enough, and like I did, and so we let go of him, and Vince was like, "Man, I'm talking to Mike Browning, and he wants to join the band, but we have to move to Tampa." And I was like, "Shit, dude, I was like 19. I was like, I'm ready. Let's go. I'll move to Tampa." So we actually moved to Tampa just to get Mike in the band. And I don't know if you know it, but Mike does some on Right to the Black Mass. Mike does some. He does some of the talking on one of the songs.
Oh, no, I hadn't heard that.
So, and I knew Mike. I didn't know Mike personally, but I knew he was in Morbid Angel. So
right.
I couldn't wait to get him in the band, dude.
And this was pre-Nocturnus days.
No, this was Nocturnus was still going on.
Okay.
Mike was kind of at the end of Nocturnus. They had replaced Mike vocally because Nocturnus felt that they wanted a front man that wasn't playing drums.
Right.
So it was a good time for us to get Mike because his band was kind of shitting on him, man. You know, like, because they didn't want him singing anymore. And I always thought I loved Mike's vocals, and I was like, that's fucking a shame, dude. Because I always liked Mike singing. I thought it was cool, his style,
Yeah. What made you ultimately end up leaving that band?
I don't. It's hard to say, man, because I was partying a lot back then. That might have had something to do with it. Because I was in my 20s, man. I was really young, and I knew there was a falling out between me and Vince at some point. I don't remember what was over, and he had got this other guitarist from like this glam band in Vincent Breeding, and I didn't really like that guy, so I left, man.
That was pretty much the end of that for you, anyway.
Yeah.
And Pete stayed in that band for a while, but you guys met up a few years later again in Equinox, correct?
Yeah. So right after I quit doing Apostasy, Pete called me, and he needed a guitarist for Equinox, and his bass player had left, so Matt switched to bass because I think Matt was just singing before. Yeah. I don't remember because I wasn't in the band before that, but they needed a guitarist, so we did like a black death metal. We did corpse paint on stage and like spikes and stuff because black metal was this was like 94. And black metal was just huge. Yeah. And they weren't real black metal before I joined the band. And then I kind of pushed them more in the black metal direction. And then that kind of, I started having kids, and my job started getting crazy around 2000. So I quit the band in like 2000. So.
Just, did you take a break from music altogether for a while?
I did no music for like 5 years. No, it was like 7 years.
Okay.
And then when my kids got a little older, Matt actually quit Equinox, and they were like, "Hey, we need a bass player." And I was like, "I have a bass. I never play it, but I wanted to sing, man, because like I started thinking about singing then, and so." With Matt gone, they needed a singer bass player, so I rejoined Equinox doing singing and bass, and that fizzled out. And then the drummer that we were doing Equinox with, Gabe Lewandowski, he was doing this project called Serpent Sun, and he needed a bass player singer for that. So we did that for about a year, and then it was a couple of years, and then 2010, Pete was like, "Hey, you want to do a Doom band?" And I was like, "Man, I love Doom, but is it a thing right now?" And he was like, "Not really, but I'm hoping to bring it back." So
the Doom thing was Pete's idea then.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Pete's the mastermind. Yeah, he's the mastermind behind the band. Yeah. Yeah. It was Pete and Steve. They sent me a track, and it was the first song on Hymns. Oh man, I can't remember what the song is. The Ghastly Horror. Oh man, I can't think.
So we're talking about off Hymns for the Wicked, off the first album, correct?
Yeah, they sent me just a rough track. It was guitar and drums. And I just like, man, the riffs are really fucking cool, man. And I was like, what style are you looking for? And they're like, just throw some vocals down and see what you think. And it was Chamber of Ghastly Horror. And I threw some vocals down, and they loved it, and I loved the song. And we were gonna do a demo with 3 songs, and we got the 3 songs written. And we're like, man, fuck, this sounds great. Why don't we do 5 songs and we'll do an EP, Yeah. So we're recording ourselves. So, it wasn't nothing to just spend more time recording. And after the 5 songs, we're like, fuck, man, we're so close to a full length. Why don't we just do a fucking full length? So we did a full length, and Horror, Pain, Gore, Death heard a couple tracks, and they're like, hey, we could release this for you guys. And we're like, cool, man. And then we got this lady from Germany. I can't remember her name, Angela something, and she released it on vinyl, and it blew up, man. We were really happy,
Yeah, and that was what, around 2010, 2011, somewhere in there.
It was 2010, man. Yeah.
Crazy. And so from the get-go, you guys kind of took on that Doom, as you said. It wasn't really a thing so much back then, but you guys took some influences from bands like Candlemass and Bathory, and the first album. Those were the 2 bands that really I heard when I listened to that. And then like the Martin Van Drunen era Asphyx, kind of came through in that as well. Which I was a huge fan of, Pestilence back before then. But I remember hearing Asphyx for the first time, going, man, these guys are heavy as fuck, and that guy sounds pissed off when he sings. And so that's cool. That was kind of that was the vibe I got when I first listened to hymns. And then some years later, it was like 8 years later before you guys released Grotesque. And then while it still has that huge doom vibe to it, I think it took on a lot more melody. Kind of reminded me of like Gothic era Paradise Lost and like My Dying Bride with the harmonies and things like that. Was that something you guys were into at all?
Oh, dude, I was a big, huge Paradise Lost fan. The first like 2 albums, and the old My Dying Bride. Yeah, my vocals. I basically describe my vocals as like if you took Massacre and Paradise Lost and My Dying Bride and you just combined them. That's what I think my vocals sound like, because that's where my major influences were, and I like. You might hear a taste of like Obituary every once in a while or Deicide, but the main ones for me was the doomier stuff,
Yeah.
So, which worked out. Oh, I see you got a False Prophet shirt on, man. That's cool.
Oh, completely coincidental, but yes. Giving props to my friends and your friends there and the Prophet Boys, and of course, Mr. Scott Pavarnik building you that badass fucking bass that I waited a lifetime to see live in person, so...
Oh yeah, man, that's cool.
Awesome.
So
the old school doom stuff. I don't know. Were you ever into like Bolt Thrower or bands like that?
Oh yeah, man. Bolt Thrower, Carcass, Cancer.
Yeah.
Brave. Yeah, I mean all the old school stuff, man. Gorguts. Big Gorguts fan. And all the traditional Morbid Angel, Deicide, Obituary, and then, like you mentioned, Candlemass, big influence. I always loved doom. I thought that when the fast stuff come out, nobody was going to want to hear doom anymore.
Yeah.
And then, after 10 years of just this really fast stuff, I think people are just like, especially live, people are like, man, it's nice to hear something heavy and that we can understand. And, you can hear every note, they don't fly by so fast. And, I think if you do all fast stuff, it gets boring. If you do all slow stuff, it gets boring. So we try to do a little bit of both,
Yeah, I think one of the things that sets Druid Lord apart from a lot of other bands, doom or otherwise, is even if you're not familiar with that genre, like I can listen to your vocals and I can hear all the words without having read lyric sheets or anything like that. I can understand the vocals, and you can listen to the guitar and you can hear the bass, and everything is kind of each instrument you can hear individually. And I know that was something that even Chuck Schuldiner strived for, was I love death metal vocals, but I want them to be intelligible. And I think that a lot of bands kind of get buried in the mix that way with trying to do too much at a time, which is why I've always liked the whole doom genre, because it really does celebrate everything individually. So
yeah, we wanted to be as heavy as possible, like the guitar, Pete, he tuned his guitars to B, and I was like B, because man, when I tuned my bass to B, they felt like rubber bands.
Yeah, they're flopping around on there.
Yeah, and so I had to get bigger strings, and I had to cut the nut out so it could fit the bigger strings.
Right.
And we just started, we researched what these guys, like people that we heard that were really heavy. We researched what amps they were playing and, what kind of pickups they were using. And because we wanted, like, when we first hit that first note when you hear us, like on that first song, we wanted to like melt your face off, like oh my God, because there was guys that did that to us.
Yeah.
And we wanted to be those guys to other people,
Yeah, no, your shit is heavy. I remember Carcass tuning to B back in the day. It was a band I was into early on, in trying to learn Carcass songs and tuning my guitar down and having like 10 gauge strings on my guitar, and those fuckers were just flopping around. And I was like, how can you even play that stuff without having a baritone or something? And yeah, it was just, I remember that blowing my mind, and now that kind of became the thing down the road of down tuning and heavier gauges. I wish I would have done that earlier on in my own career there.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So what was different about your approach with Grotesque Offerings versus Hymns? Did you guys do anything majorly differently in concept or in ideology?
No, actually, we didn't. We didn't do anything different. We're still writing about old horror movies.
Yeah.
Mostly like 70s horror movies that we were enjoying. The vocals are still the same. I mean, yeah, we didn't change. We didn't change much. We just we had someone mix and master this one for us because I've recorded everything for the band, and I never went to school for it. I never took any classes. I never ran live sound for anybody. I just started recording as like a hobby. And when we heard how good it sounded, we were like, we could probably get by with just doing it ourselves.
Yeah.
And so we just kept doing it ourselves. But there reached a point where we were just like, you know what? I don't know if we're going to make it sound as heavy as we want it to sound ourselves. So we actually got Tomas. He's the guy who mixed the Hooded Menace, the first Hooded Menace, and I think he mixed the second one too. And because Hooded Menace are buddies of ours, and we really liked their mix, and we're like, hey, who mixed you guys? And they told us, so we contacted him, and he's the one who mixed Grotesque Offerings.
Oh,
so,
yeah. It definitely, there's a difference in the overall, I guess you'd say, production sound of the albums, but it does still feel a lot similar. Hymns is going to be a little bit more raw, and Grotesque going to be a little bit more polished. But yeah, it's definitely, it seems to have stayed true to itself within those two albums. Are you guys working on more material, or are you just kind of enjoying your time out there playing a bunch of shows right now? It seems like you're pretty busy doing that.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of shows. We got a really cool fest in Denmark coming up, and we're really excited about that because we've never been to Europe. Like, we've been to Europe personally, but we've never been there as Druid Lord,
Yeah.
So that's going to be exciting to do that. And then I think when we get back, we're going to start on the new album. We do have like one song written, but we're real slow with the writing the songs. And,
I was going to say, I've heard that it takes you guys forever to get songs finished the way that you like them to be, and then you throw on the factor of having like movie outtakes and things like that. It's probably just a whole big long process. It's really long. I mean, it literally takes us. I said literally like probably a year for each song. Oh.
And not intentionally. Yeah. Not intentionally, and I'd love to get an album out a little quicker, but I think the chances of getting a new album out, in 2 years is probably not reality.
Yeah, and then 10 years later, you're writing an album, and by the time you're done, you're like, hey man, I don't even like this kind of music anymore. I might be moving on to something else.
Yeah, I mean, literally, the Hymns took so long to get out. I mean, we've had some of those songs written 3 years ago, and so some of them I feel like, they're old songs to me,
yeah.
And I'm just like, let's write some new stuff. So, and we got a new guitarist, and he's got to learn like, a lot of the old songs. And so I once he's on board with all the old stuff, I think we'll start writing some new stuff.
You have a new guitarist,
Chris Wickline. He's from Killing Addiction. Yeah, we had to let go of Ben. About like a year and a half ago. Yeah.
Yeah, he seems like Chris seems like he fits in pretty good. Watching him at the shows and kind of seeing him on some of the videos that I've seen online. Yeah, he's I love that fucking guitar. That Iceman he's playing is killer.
Yeah.
So he's learning your new stuff, and I assume though that once everything is kind of done along those lines, he'll be a part of the songwriting process if all goes according to plan.
Yeah, we always let everybody have input in the songs. I've literally I've never wrote any of the lead guitar stuff, but I've helped out with like riffs here and there. I'm like, oh, we should do this here. And Pete is mainly the songwriter, but I definitely write a lot of the lyrics, and I have a lot of input, even with like drum parts, like on hymns when we were working, because I play drums a little bit. I'm not that great, but you know, we would be like, hey, what's you know, like we had some shit that was in like 5/8 time. And the drummer was like, what the fuck am I going to do with this? You know, like, cause he wasn't like a jazz guy.
Right.
So he doesn't know 5/8 time. And I was like, oh yeah, that's really easy, man. You do 4 and then you just do like a little roll at the end, you know, cause I know some music theory, you know? So I was like, so we all help out, man, you know, and it's definitely, you'll see on the album, you know, Pete wrote this song and I wrote this song, but it's really a group effort.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's awesome. The collaboration, I think, is key for a lot of stuff. You get everybody's input on there, and you get to take everybody's different influences and everybody's different kind of musical upbringings into one collective work. I just think it shows a lot of diversity, and I love that in music myself.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the same band if one guy did everything. It
right.
just, you know, it wouldn't.
It would be Ghost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't get me started on those guys.
Yeah, I just got myself all worked up when I said that because I get all pissed off all over again. So I've got a friend of mine that's a huge fan, and not that I ever want to slam anybody publicly, but I guess I just don't get it. I mean, I'm a huge fan of concept albums and different kind of theatrical things, but I guess that one is just lost on me. I'm not in that cult.
Yeah.
All right. So
I liked a couple of the songs. I thought they were okay. His voice kind of ruins it for me, though.
Right. So. Well, you can't all be Tony Blacks. So you touched on it a few minutes ago, and I wanted to kind of break into this about how you guys are all fans of the kind of the old horror movies, and specifically the 70s ones. So really kind of more the pulp style horror as opposed to the mainstream style. Which is where you get a lot of your kind of inspiration for your lyrics and things like that. So, what are some of your favorites? What are some that have really just stuck with you over the years that you decided you wanted to write songs about?
Definitely the Crazies, Baron Blood, mostly the ones that we've already wrote songs about, because we wrote all our favorites we wrote first, There's a lot of those, the old black and white, there wasn't a lot of special effects. They just were creepy, and the new movies don't know how to make it creepy like they did back then, man. It's most of the ones, that we write about, Pete's probably a little more familiar with the band, with the name titles, but he'll say, hey man, I want to write a song about this. Watch this movie, and I'll watch it, and then I'll jot down ideas, and I'll send him lyrics, and he'll be like, oh yeah, this is cool, but you didn't mention this part, or this part, and I'll do the same with him. I'll be like, hey man, I want to write a song about this, and I think if we weren't horror movie fans, I don't know what we would write about, honestly, because we're not like satanic. Yeah, we're like, I don't believe in Satan and God and stuff, so we couldn't write about that.
Right.
I don't know what we would write about, man, because that's all we're really into collectively as a band, So,
I'm curious how
it works.
Yeah, definitely it works. I mean, House of Dripping Gore, when I heard that song live, that's the one that people really seem to lose their shit over. That seems like a really popular song, and that's just such a fantastic, melodic, brutal song. So I'm curious, though, how you take a concept like old horror movies, yet come up with a name like Druid Lord.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a Pete question, unfortunately. He came up with the name, and I just loved it from the beginning. The name before that was Alabaster Grim. That was going to be the name of the band. And I was like, I was like, nah, I can't get into it, man. I was like, you gotta come up with stuff a little bit better. And we're always into the old stories about, you know, witchcraft and the cults and stuff. And the Druids, it's kind of a sad tale, you know. The Druids, I mean, they're gone.
Yeah, just wiped out, just disappeared.
But there was something about them that was just cool, man, and eerie, you know. And when he came up with the name, I was like, oh, like a king druid, you know, like the lord of the castle.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, man. I was like, dude, that's badass. I was like, I love it, man. So that's where, you know, that's where it came from, pretty much.
I kind of expected, like, if you've ever seen Spinal Tap, just to when I see you guys play, I envisioned a little fucking Stonehenge dropping from the ceiling and a bunch of little fucking midget dwarfs dancing around, and then you guys coming out with your fucking death metal. It would have been awesome, but it didn't happen, so, you know, I got myself all psyched up for that, yeah. So next time, there's your free idea, so...
Midgets are expensive, dude. That's why you don't see midgets in movies anymore.
Yeah,
when you
right.
see like the new Willy Wonka, it's one guy playing them, you know, 10,000 midgets. They're expensive, man.
It's all everything.
They got a union.
Yeah, everything is all CG now, anyway. So.
Yeah.
Well, so speaking of live though, so I finally got a chance to see you guys live after trying many times to get out to the East Coast. Finally made it happen. Killer show, heavy as fuck. And how cool is that Massacre show and with False Prophet happened basically in your backyard?
And I was like, okay, False Prophet's going to be there. Guys from Massacre. I was like, there's some heavy hitters in the death metal community going to be there. So I set up behind the place and did a bunch of interviews with them.
I saw that.
You can see them on my show. Yeah, so I was like, I don't know when all the stars are ever going to align and that shit's going to be like perfect like this again. So I took advantage of it, definitely.
Yeah, it's pretty historic, especially, you know, with the whole, that being Massacre's first show as is in, you know, 30 plus years, and seeing them play the entire album start to finish was pretty epic for sure. So... But you mentioned, since you brought it up, and we brought it up earlier in the show, so you kick back there on that super badass mural on the back of Will's Pub, and you got the Tony Blakk Show going on. So let's tell me about the Tony Blakk Show.
So the Tony Blakk Show. Let's see, how do I describe it? So I'm a fucking nut, man. I try to crack people up. I'm really close to doing some stand up or something. I have to work myself up to it, you know, because you got to have some big balls to stand up there and do that.
For sure.
But I always loved making people laugh, and I was like, I want to do a show that's got a metal theme and makes people laugh, and you know, I fuck with people that I'm interviewing and ask them stupid questions, you know, and and then. I was, you know, I have a little studio, a recording studio in my garage. So I had all this equipment. I just needed some video cameras and a way to sync up the audio. And once I figured all that shit out, I was like, oh, I'm doing my fucking show now. I'm ready, you know. So, yeah, probably kind of like what you're doing right now, man. Yeah. Yeah,
I have a ton of video stuff myself that I just haven't dug into yet, and it's very daunting, and it's hard enough to mix and edit just a podcast, let alone trying to throw a video into that as well. And I'm pretty, we'll call it technically retarded. You know, I don't really do that well when it comes to trying to figure all this shit out, but I, like yourself, I'm all self-taught, so... But your guests on the Tony Blakk Show, of course, on that day, I think you got just about everybody that came through that day. I think I saw Paul Ray, saw Rick Ross, Cam Lee, who hogged up almost your entire time. You got Scott on there. Yeah. So yeah, that was great though. That was a really good interview. I thoroughly enjoyed that. And so, but you try to keep them short. You just kind of short to the point. Let's blab for a couple minutes, then get the fuck out of my chair and make room for the next guy. Is that the idea?
Yeah, I'm very kind of like that. Like I know people have short attention spans, and I want to grab their attention right away with like something funny, and then I want to make it short and sweet, and like I edit everything down so it's real concise, and I just even if you see me on Facebook, you'll notice I don't have really long rants.
Right.
I might say a couple times, and then it's like I make you laugh and then I'm out of there. You know? Like I just don't want to I don't want to what do you call it, like outstay my welcome or something.
Sure.
So.
Well, I don't know if I'd be concerned about that. I think you've definitely got a place no matter where you go. So
thanks, bro.
You've also had your family members on there, which is kind of cool. It seems you get everybody involved and just you're having fun with it, which is kind of what I like about it. It's not taking itself so seriously that it's just like a million other YouTube channels out there. It's like, hey, check this out. Let's fuck around, have some fun, and get on with our days, which is the thing that I like the best about it. So that brick wall, though, is that in your house? That backdrop that you use? Where is that?
That's in my garage, man. It's just like a fake wall I got at Home Depot.
It's a movie prop.
Yeah. It's totally fake. The whole backdrop is fake, and it's portable, so I can move it. Like if I'm going to do some shows in Tampa next month, and I'm taking the whole thing over there in my van, and it's totally portable. Everything I got is portable. So it's going to be cool.
That's awesome. Should hang some fucking body parts or something on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get some interviews with like Pete Sandoval and some of the guys from DSI and some of the guys from Brutality.
Yeah,
I know some of those guys are already on board. Mike Browning, he's definitely on board. Maybe I can get Trey out there. Maybe I don't know, but I'm trying to get. I'm going to do like probably a whole weekend where I just do a bunch of interviews over there. So
just power through them. I would be very curious myself to just hear something with Trey, because that guy is a character, and I think he's quite misunderstood out there in the world. So I would love to see what you can get out of that guy.
Oh, man, I think the two of us together, it could either be awesome or it could be a total fucking train wreck,
Well, not that I would ever hope for a train wreck, but, it's kind of like one of those things where you do like to see some crazy fucked up shit in the world sometimes. So, moving on from that then, I did also notice that you seem to have some different kind of musical taste. You play a little bit of the piano, so you're playing some fucking Mozart or something. What else are you into besides the metal?
So I try to, I got 3 kids, and my daughter plays piano. All 3 of my kids know how to play drums, because we have a drum set in our garage, and even when they were little kids, I'd be out there banging on them, and they would want me to show them how. So, I play a lot. I'm just really hugely into music, and so I play almost every instrument I could get my hands on. Somebody handed me a violin one day, and I just started playing a song. It wasn't awesome, but they were like, "You play violin?" And I was like, "Well, it's not that much different than a guitar,
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so I just love music, and I love classical music. I've always loved classical music. It's really hard to play.
Yeah.
So you won't see me doing it a lot, but I'll sit down and just get engulfed in a piece, and I won't stop until I kind of perfected at least 2 minutes of it, so I can make a video or something, So that's pretty. If you saw me doing a song, I probably only know that amount of that song.
Whatever you could film for 2 minutes, that's your piece.
Yeah, exactly. Just because I love music, man. I'm just a huge music fan. Any style, pretty much.
Awesome. And you've got your family involved. So you guys are like the fucking death metal Partridge Family over there. That'd be awesome. So, well, I want to ask you a few questions, kind of like a this or that kind of thing. You ready for this?
Yeah, man, go for it.
All right. Martin Van Drunen or Tom G. Warrior?
Tom G. Warrior.
Tom G. From the Celtic Frost, huh?
Oh, my God, man. I listen to them at least once a week, man.
Still listen to him. I came across I had a buddy of mine who died a few years back, and just about 2 weeks ago, we went over to his house. His mom called us up and said, "Hey, go through his old record collection." And he was a collector, so thousands and thousands of pieces of vinyl. And I did come across quite a few of the old Celtic Frosts that I was able to kind of snatch up from there. And Gorguts, by the way. Since you mentioned Gorguts earlier, I was laughing. Dude. I'm like, who the fuck even knows about Gorguts anymore? So I was a huge fan. And going back to Tom G, man, if you ever hear me go, ugh, yeah, that's him, dude. I totally ripped him off, man. And everybody that ever does that did. Yeah. Yeah, and then it's really crazy, too, speaking of Tom G, because he does so many different vocal styles, even within the band. Way more than I think people even realize how many different things he tried. And he just experimented, and he's still experimenting. The whole thing is like one big fucking mad scientist experiment with Celtic Frost. Yeah. Cool. So, all right, Steve Harris or Cliff Burton? Cliff Burton, man. Going to the Cliff. Yeah, he has that, he has the classical stuff, like, that Anesthesia is just full of all this classical beauty, and his headbanging style. He wore his bass real low. He had the bell bottoms, the long hair. He was I don't know, man. Between him and Geezer Butler, I can't imagine if those two guys, had sex and had a baby, it would be the best bass player in the world, it would be the awesomest. So yeah, I can't get that image out of my mind now because I am actually imagining that. So awesome. I'll try not to let that distract me for the rest of the day. So Mozart or Bach? Oh man, Mozart. Yeah. He was a little more dramatic, you know. That's for sure. Phantom of the Opera or Les Miserables? Oh, geez. Phantom of the Opera. Yeah. We just got a history lesson on that in France. The Phantom of the Opera, because that book was written about a place that we visited over there. I can't remember the name of it. Awesome. So personal history lesson about that one then. Yeah, just now. Yeah, that's funny you mentioned it. Dracula or Frankenstein? Dracula. Yeah. A little bloodier. Yeah. I just like the whole mystery and how he would seduce women, and it was a little more eerie for me. Yeah. Frankenstein was just a big, goofy, oaf that, he was scary, but Dracula, I think he was scarier, honestly, because he could sneak up on you. He could change into a bat. I don't know. Dracula was cooler to me. Nice. Here's a little bit more pulpier stuff. Swamp Thing or Creature from the Black Lagoon? Oh, shit. Oh, man. You're showing your age now, man. Hey. I'm sure you still got me beat. I think, those two movies, I don't know. Those two movies are really high up there for me because, like the Creature from the Black Lagoon, that was the first movie I'd seen in 3D. Yeah. And when I was a kid, you went up to 7-Eleven, you bought the 3D glasses, and you had to tune your TV. And then Swamp Thing, I was in love with that female lead, the lady with the black curly hair. I was totally in love with her. Man, that's a hard one. I would have to say Swamp Thing, man. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Two epic ones that are really hard to choose between for sure. And then if you go back now and you watch, like, for instance, what's it called? That Guillermo del Toro, The Shape of Water, right? Where that creature is so fucking reminiscent kind of both of those creatures. You can definitely see where the influence came from there. I don't want to say ripped it off, but kind of fucking ripped it off.
Yeah.
But yeah, so awesome. Toxic Avenger or Surf Nazis Must Die.
Toxic Avenger, man. Yeah.
Good old Melvin.
Again, I was in love with the female lead on the Toxic Avenger.
Yeah. So that was super awesome. All those old Trauma movies. I mean, if you're into just straight up campy violence for the sake of violence and horrible special effects that make Ed Wood look like a genius, those were just absolutely out of control. So,
I've probably seen the Toxic Avenger like 20 times, man.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. All right, Stonehenge or Easter Island?
Stonehenge.
Yeah. Well, of course. Yeah. Considering
I'm in England, man.
Yeah, gotta go with that. And I think I already asked you English food or French food, but you already decided on the French food there.
Yeah,
so.
French. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been super epic. I've sucked up an insane amount of your time, which I definitely appreciate. Why don't you go ahead and plug your sites and any upcoming shows you got, and tell us what's going on with Druid Lord and where we can find you on the interwebs.
So we got the show coming up in Denmark at Killfest in Copenhagen, Denmark on September 8th. That's going to be epic. We got druidlord.com. We've had that forever. We got a really good deal on some tour shirts that are for our last tour that we didn't sell all of them. So if you want a tour shirt with the dates on the back, you can get them really cheap right now at druidlord.com. That's about it, man. We don't have a lot of upcoming shows because right after Denmark, we're going to go back in the studio and start working on this new album, hopefully.
Oh,
so
man. And then in 25 years, we'll hear it. It'll be fucking killer.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe 2026. Yeah.
2026. You guys write that on your calendars. You got plenty of time to plan for this. Don't miss it. In the meantime, go on their sites, buy their merch, buy their fucking albums, stock them online. It's worth it, I promise you. So, hey, Tony, thank you for doing this today, brother. I really appreciate it, and congratulations on all the cool stuff you got coming down.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it, man. Yeah. I appreciate you supporting local music, man, local heavy metal stuff, dude.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Support it all. Support the metal. Support the folk. Support your acoustic artists. Support your comic book artists. Support everybody who does something creative in the world, because at the end of the day, the people that are out there putting their names out there to try to offer something different, they're the ones who are making a difference in the world. So,
yes, sir. I agree. Thank you, brother.
Appreciate
you, man.
Yep. Not that I want to be the guy to say I told you so, but I fucking told you so. Was that not piles of awesomeness? Absolutely out of control. As always, thanks for hanging out with me here on Misery Porn Radio. I really appreciate you being here. Please do me the solid, like the pages, share it, subscribe, all the platforms, iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, wherever podcasts are found, and support all of your artists, local and otherwise. And support Druid Lord, because they're super fucking badass. This song here, my favorite off of Grotesque Offerings, it's called House of Dripping Gore. Check it out, it's gonna melt your fucking face off.